Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think a lot of people from decades ago were probably in the closet, and then like you kind of think of like, I'm just going to use an example, and I have no idea whether this person's gay or not, but like someone like a Joe Weider or some of these different people that are, they always kind of acted differently, and nobody really knew how to pinpoint what they were doing or how they were acting.
I
But
mean,
maybe
look at Janae.
right,
Janae Kroc, right? Like she came up and, you know, I mean, obviously amazing power lifter, you know, military, Marine, like just like the most hyper masculine dude in the world. But obviously was like battling these demons, you know, of being a trans woman. And I think it's definitely like a societal shift that we're seeing, that like I think people are more accepting and comfortable. But like I'll especially like you talk about it because like you've been gay longer than I have.
Yeah, I just feel like, I think we were talking about it the other day too. It's like when I was in high school, like there was probably 3 gay people total in my whole entire school.
What year was that for you? High school?
I graduated in 2010.
Okay. Yeah, same with me.
So like even like freshman year, like I didn't even like necessarily know what gay was, but I knew I was different. And I came out when I was 17, so I was going from my sophomore year into my junior year. But even just out of the whole school, I probably graduated, just my class was like 230 people. So like times 4, like there was only 3 people.
Yeah.
And that was only gay men. Like I didn't even know any like lesbians or just like nothing. But like now compared to today, like he works at a high school and I'm like, he's like, yeah, like we have like 2 or 3 trans students, like a couple. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
They're just like living their life. And like, I'm like, how are the other students towards them? And he's like, they're just normalized. They just hang out and just do normal things. I'm like, it just blows my mind compared to like when I was in high school. It was like taboo. You like just don't talk about it.
I work in a very conservative area of Massachusetts. So to see that there are, you know, openly transgendered students and gay and lesbian, bisexual, like whatever they are, and they're just doing their thing. And it's like the trans students, like all the, like we have one student that is a female to male trans student. And like, he's just one of the guys. Like nobody thinks about it.
Yeah.
They like use his pronouns, call him by his name. Like, and it's just like, oh yeah, that's just him. Like, and nobody, you know, like it's really cool to like see that happening, you know, in an area that is, you know, politically shifted one way, but to like see that the students are just like, no, like that's just them. Like, and they don't even like think twice about it or question it. It's really cool to see that with like, you know, this younger generation that we see.
Yeah. It is really interesting because it's like so many people will hear that and be like, oh, it's because these kids, they're being exposed to so many things so young. But this is the thing. You were gay in high school, although you didn't know you were gay in high school.
Yeah.
You just knew you were different. If you had something that allowed you to kind of understand that, or like you made a book, if you had something that allowed you to understand what was going on, you would have been more comfortable with yourself when you were younger. Not more comfortable, because it's not like you were uncomfortable, but you would have known, right?
I probably would have came out earlier.
You would have came out earlier.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like a lot of individuals, a lot of kids, it's just like they're able to kind of understand different levels of what it means to, like, different levels of their sexuality. They're starting to understand it earlier, so they can identify as whatever at a younger age, because they have a better understanding. Now, some people are going to hear that and be like, oh no, that's horrible. But I mean,
well, that's it. Just to that point, though, it's like, you know, everybody's gonna be like, well, how do you know that they're gay when they're 12? It's like, well, how did you know you were straight when you were 12? You grew up and you're like, oh, that girl's pretty, I want to date her, right? In a gay kid's mind, it's, oh, that boy's cute, I want to date. It's the same thing, you know, like,
and I really want
you just know, you know, it's not like, oh, well, like they might think differently. It's like, no, like
once you think that way, does that confuse you a bit? Because you're like, well, that kind of goes against like
societal norms.
Do you think like almost like do you that you maybe have something wrong because it's different than what you're exposed to around you, or maybe you heard something different from your parents and stuff like that?
Oh yeah, I mean, at least in my case, I thought like something was wrong, or it's like I never even like thought, like even in TV, like there was nothing that I could relate to be like, oh, like that person's like me. So I just automatically thought something was wrong, and I'm like, they're like, you need to be like this, and kind of put you in a box. Like you have to get married, you have to get kids, you have to be religious, and it just was nothing that I kind of related to. So it's just a struggle.
What I think like a lot of people are fearing is like, oh, like Nsima said, they're being exposed. So then it's like, oh, this is another option. Maybe I'll try that route. But whether you were educated on like homosexuality or not, it wouldn't change what the outcome would have been regardless. Right? Yeah, it wouldn't matter. Yeah. But I do see that happening where it's just like, oh, it's because they're being more exposed to it. They're deciding. Like, no one decides to just, I'm going to make my life really difficult and go against really everything that everybody else wants me to do.
But even at that, it's like, what's so bad about trying it?
I can't answer that one. I don't know. That's
if like they're being exposed to it, they're like, oh, like maybe I'll give that a go. Like, okay, how many times have you tried something in your life? You're like, yeah, that wasn't for me. Or it's like, oh, maybe I'm into this. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, there's still nothing wrong with doing that. I tried being straight and I hated it.
I think Dennis Rodman, he said at some point, he was like, I'm not gay, but I also never tried it.
Yeah.
Something like that. Like he was kind of at least halfway open to it.
Louis C.K. has a bit where he says, I'm not gay, but I've also never seen a dick I want to suck.
That was a fucking good bit.
Right? Like, he's like, there might be a day where I see a dick. I'm like, yep, I want that in my mouth. Like, it just hasn't happened yet.
It's like he just looks at her like, oh.
That's the one.
That's the one.
That's it. I've been waiting.
I'm out here just doing this Pop-Tart dance. These fucking legendary Pop-Tarts are so great. Power Project family, I hope you guys are doing well today. But I want to show you guys from Legendary Foods, we have the Tasty Pastry. Now, these things are 20 grams of protein and 5 grams of net carbs. Sometimes you're dieting and you want to be able to have a good, tasty snack that doesn't taste like cardboard. Well, this baby, it's not even warmed up. Imagine if you warm up this freaking tasty pastry in a microwave for like 20 seconds. I got my coffee right here, tasty pastry. I'm living life, and you guys can too. Andrew, tell them about it.
Absolutely, yeah. So the other thing about this, so again, Nsima just mentioned 20 grams of carbs for a total of 180 calories for the whole thing, and the whole thing tastes amazing. If you guys haven't tried it, you need to right now. Head over to eatlegendary.com and at checkout, enter promo code PowerProject to save 20% off your entire order. They have those tasty pastries. They have all kinds of amazing flavored nut butters. They have almonds. They have all kinds of stuff, and you cannot help but laugh when you say nut butters.
Nut butters.
So yeah, you guys need to head over there right now. Eat Legendary Food, or eatlegendary.com. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
I was watching the movie Dope Sick the other day. I don't know if you guys saw it. No. If you had the opportunity to see it. In the film, there's a girl that's a lesbian that still lives at home, and she's just like, I don't know, she's trying to like please her dad, so she works in the same like coal mine as him and all this kind of stuff, and she's trying to get like his appreciation for different things. She's lesbian, and she comes out and she explains it to her doctor, who's like a family friend, because it's like the only person she feels she can kind of open up to. And then so the doctor mentions it to the dad in kind of a sideways sort of way, just talking about gay people in general. And then there's a scene at the dinner table where the dad addresses it to her, and he's like, I can't believe you're trying to talk through the doctor to me. If you got something to say, you should say it. And he's like, this would be the worst, just so you know, this would be he's trying to ask her a question.
Yeah.
But then he says, this would be the worst thing you could ever say to me. Like, so if you tell me that you're gay, he's like, I'd rather be dead. She's like, well, I guess you're dead.
Yeah.
And he kind of blows up and he starts yelling at her, and it's a really interesting thing because, I mean, she has no leverage. She's a young kid. Yeah. So that fucking sucks, in every way possible. From his side, he just doesn't he just has a total misunderstanding. Like, I don't think anyone should ever treat their kid that way. I think in most cases, if someone treated their kid that way when it came to anything else, most parents would be like, that's not an acceptable way to treat your child.
Yeah.
But when it comes to certain things like this, I think that people think, oh man, I might react the same way. If I found out my son was gay, I would
disown him. Really.
That would be devastating. Like, I want him to, do X, Y, and Z, whatever things that you think he can't do because he all of a sudden tells you that he's gay. I think in people's mind, it like changes. Like, he can't be a world's strongest man. Can't be a football player. You can't be these things, right?
Yeah. That's the problem. I think it's because, again, like Joey touched on it earlier, it's like, especially people that are, of an older generation, right? Like, they grow up seeing gay portrayed one way, right? Like, it's portrayed as typically outgoing, feminine, flamboyant men, right? That's typically all we see gay people as portrayed in media and really anywhere. So I think automatically when these people have this idea that, okay, well, my son's going to be gay, so he can't do this. Like, you know, he can't have a family, can't give me kids, like all that stuff.
You already
it's
put
like,
him in a box. It's like, this
Exactly.
is the only thing that you are.
And I just think it's like, it doesn't change the person you are fundamentally, right? And at the end of the day, like, even like, this is something like we talk about, you know, especially you mentioned, like I had the book that came out, and it's like, growing up, I never thought I was possible. Right? Like, you'd never seen a gay strength athlete, never really seen a gay athlete, right?
Yeah.
Like performing at a high level. Yeah. So it's like you always see, you know, the football players with their wives or their girlfriends. And so it's like automatically as a gay kid growing up, you're like, well, I guess I just can't do that because you don't see it. And I think that's one of the reasons like we have been so open and upfront about our relationship and our marriage and the amazing things that we do with our life, because we're just trying to show everybody, and I hate using this word, but I don't think there's any better way to describe it. We're like just normalizing our relationship to everybody to show them, like what you said earlier, is like, it's just love. We're just a married couple doing what we want with our lives. And it's, you know, I think people just misconstrued it in so many different ways.
So Power Project family, I hope you enjoyed this clip. We are on Discord and Reddit. We're trying to talk to you guys and build a community down there. So the links are in the bio. But remember, like, comment, subscribe, share this out with people so you can share the wealth of health. As cheesy as that fucking sounds. Peace.